basically worked for free for 6 months just to kind of prove that I could do it.
People aren't prepared for what's actually going to come.
Are you just sabotaging yourself to like do it?
Yeah. Underrated, we the underdogs, underestimated.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Totem podcast. Like always, we got special guests that come on with us. But like always, Eric, how you doing?
Pretty good. We're here, chilling, ready to go. And guys, remember that we're both on YouTube and Spotify. So if you're listening on YouTube, you can check us out on Spotify too, or vice versa. And if you guys like the conversations that we have, and you guys want us to keep having them, just give it a like. Give the video a like, subscribe. That way we can keep bringing you these awesome guests like we have today. And then when you click subscribe, you also got to click the bell to be notified every single time we upload a new episode.
Yeah, that's the only fee we have is just to share the show, to get more people. We have important people talking important topics, and just to help you guys, educate you guys a little bit more. But so today's guest, it's a important guest in today's economy, what's been going on and stuff. Eric, how you doing today? Another Eric, other Eric.
Yeah, I'm just going to confuse it by bringing another Eric on today.
Yep. So how you doing?
I'm doing good.
That's good. So first of all, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
That's good.
Yeah.
So if you can, give us a little bit of backstory, like
just
who you
like,
are, how you grew up. So people that don't know you, just give us a little backstory.
I've got a really varied background, so I don't even know where to start on that, honestly. I grew up southeast, born in South Carolina, grew up in Florida, Georgia, but I've now lived in Colorado for about 25 years. My journey to become a mortgage professional has been pretty winding. I actually started off doing mostly more marketing and retail in my younger years, and then it kind of developed into doing marketing in the real estate world back in around 2014 or so. And then I was working with a real estate developer at the time. At one point, I was managing all the marketing for properties from Birmingham, Alabama, all the way to San Diego, California. I had 13 apartment complexes, 2 office complexes, multiple single-family homes, and even a vacation rental in the Virgin Islands that I handled all the marketing for. And then I had a friend who started his own brokerage and needed some marketing help with that too. So he offered me a percentage of the company to come on and do all the marketing for that. And so when he started that company, I was doing all of that work. And that was kind of more of a side job while I was still doing retail stuff too. So okay. I was a district manager for Dollar Tree at the same time as being basically the chief marketing officer for a brokerage. And then he made a bunch of money in the stock market, decided he wanted to travel the world. So he closed the brokerage. I got stuck working the retail job, and that wasn't my passion. That's not what I wanted to do. So I wanted to get back into the real estate side, but I'm not a real estate agent. I'm a numbers guy. And so mortgages is where I decided to land, and that's the direction I went. And now I'm working for Celebrity Home Loans. I've kind of built up my own personal brand of Eric the Red.
Eric the Red, make sure you check it out. Hashtag Eric the Red on everything, so for sure, check it out.
But yeah, that's basically how I got there. But my background is really marketing. That's what my degree's in. That's what I've done for multiple companies. I kind of worked as an independent consultant doing that. I worked on a cryptocurrency company. I worked with a tax advisor. I've done all kinds of stuff when it comes to marketing. So definitely a fan of social media. So I'm on everything pretty much. You can find me, again, with that hashtag. It's actually Eric the Red MLO, Mortgage Loan Originator, because if you just type in Eric the Red, you're going to bring up the historical Eric the Red, but that way you can kind of find me.
Okay, cool.
So you started out like with marketing, right? So
yes.
What kind of just drew you to that? Because it kind of sounds like it's like kind of your first passion.
It's kind of something I just fell into, honestly. I started actually marketing music events. I was basically a nightclub promoter for 5 years.
Okay, nice.
So I did that for quite a while. That's where I know a lot of the people in the Denver metro area is just people I met through nightclub and music events, because I did marketing for that for quite a while. And then again, I got my degree in that. I like the psychology side of marketing. My favorite class in school was consumer behavior, understanding how people are affected by the messages that you're sending. So
it's kind of like marketing with a mix of like psychology into it, just like understanding how the human actually works in response to just messages.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So like, just to kind of keep me on track, like, I guess give me like a timeline. So like, kind of like how long ago did you start the marketing, and then how long kind of like in the mortgage
So the marketing started probably around like 2004, 2005-ish,
Okay.
somewhere in that range. I don't know exactly.
Okay.
At the time, I was a store manager for Radio Shack, but I ended up getting invited out to a bunch of music events, which were similar events that I'd been going to since I was 14. And so I already kind of had connections to that environment. But getting invited back out to those events, I was like, okay, you know what? I love this. This reminds me of my teenage years. I want to get back into this. And so I started just promoting those events kind of on my own. I basically worked for free for 6 months just to kind of prove that I could do it. And then as the demand for my services got more and more, I just started charging more and more. And my crew got bigger and yeah, it turned into a business. It wasn't even planned. It just kind of happened.
That's usually how it's. I think that's usually how it is. Like, if you want to get known, you kind of have to do it for a cheaper price or whatever, just to start getting known. And then I guess once the market's going to let you know if it's good or not, and then if they start paying, I mean, then I'm guessing it might be pretty good. But I was asking you that timeline because you said you were doing marketing stuff for like a cryptocurrency company and stuff. So people think cryptocurrency started like 2 years ago because that's when it's boomed, but it's been going on for a long time. That's why like you kind of just skidded over through it. But it's like, that's why I was wondering. I was pretty sure that was a long time ago, you know.
Well, that actually was not as long as you'd think. I think that was actually 2015 that I was working on that particular cryptocurrency, and honestly, it's not one of my biggest successes. That's why I don't really talk about it too much, because I got hired to work on an ICO, initial coin offering, and unfortunately, right before the launch, they changed the rules on a bunch of things, and so the company folded before we launched. So even though I did all this work, you know, marketing it, because of they changed the rules on how you could do an ICO, the company ended up pulling back right before the launch, and so it never ended up launching. And so if I talk about it too much, they're like, "Oh, what coin was it?" And then I have to admit that the coin never happened.
Yeah. But see, everything's like everything's like timing, because like around that time, crypto wasn't like, maybe if it would have been like 2019, 2020, and you have that same thing, maybe. I mean, we never know, I guess. But you know, it's like all about timing and business.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's like the thing with like startups, though. Like when, just kind of referring back to what you said earlier, that you kind of just did for free to kind of just build up your kind of like your following, and then see if there was a market for what you provided. Like a lot of like new businesses just want to get paid racks right away, and that's why they end up not succeeding, because they want to get paid right away before they even know what the market needs of them.
Exactly. And as somebody who has technically started 3 companies, every single one of those companies didn't make money at first. In fact, most of the time I was usually bleeding money. I was usually paying money out of my own pocket to keep it going to start with. But once it got going, yeah, I mean, there was definitely value to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then you were like, so you did all this marketing and stuff. So when did you start kind of getting into like the real estate space? Because you went from marketing to real estate to then eventually mortgage lending. So
around 2014, I was doing contract work. That's kind of when I was doing the tax company. She was launching basically a business site for people to find tax professionals. And so I was traveling around the country, going to conferences, helping promote this new site. And so I was working as a contract employee for that, but it wasn't enough hours to fill my day. And so I found this real estate developer that was hiring basically, you know, a part-time marketing position. And I'm like, okay, well, that'll fill the extra hours. And so I went and I started working for them, doing that marketing. And at the time, all I was really doing at first was just posting like Craigslist ads to fill the apartment complexes that they had purchased that were, the occupancy was too low. So they just needed to get them filled. And so I was literally posting 20 to 30 Craigslist ads a day for these apartment complexes. And that's all I did at first. And then I came in and I had some ideas for how they could kind of increase the business and actually fill the occupancies faster. And so they ended up giving me more of a full-time position and promoting me to the marketing manager for the company. And so at that point, I was in a much more robust role, doing a lot more. And that's when we started doing things like setting aside rooms for this one apartment complex in Birmingham and turning them into furnished apartments for traveling nurses and things like that. And, just kind of finding creative ways to get the occupancy up so that they could make more money on these properties. And then that's later on, a couple of years later, is when I actually came up with that, or came across the opportunity to work for the brokerage. And really, that conversation started with, he needs someone to design the website. And one of the projects I worked on for the real estate developer was helping them get their website redesigned. And so they had gone with a WordPress platform, and I was working directly with the designing company, and he taught me how to update it, how to change things, how to go in there. And so I learned how to basically build a website from a template.
Okay, nice. Yeah, that's good. So I kind of want to switch topics a little bit, if you don't mind. Since you're in the mortgage space, I kind of want to get into a little bit of that. So there was a lot of lenders going out, but the problem I seen, most of their business was refinancing, because you had great interest rates. When that changes, 70% was refinancing. When that changes, now you just lost 70% of your business. So it's talk to me a little bit how that is, what's going on in the market a little bit. What are your thoughts?
So yeah, in general, the last couple of years was easy for a lot of lenders because the refinances were easy. The rates were so historically low that it was,
ridiculous.
It was ridiculous. There was really no reason not to refinance it, the last couple of years and take advantage of those rates. But the thing is, 80% of the country did. So now most of the people that had mortgages have refinanced, and at this point the only reasons to refinance would be for a divorce or for some financial need to take out some of the equity to take care of something. But honestly, even that is slowed down because to borrow against the equity, you're going to pay a lot more than what you were paying on your original mortgage. So yes, the refinance business has pretty much disappeared. I believe applications for that are down 85-90% at this point. And so purchases are where it's at. Well, purchases are harder to find,
Yeah.
You can find somebody that owns a home and say, hey, you can refinance. To find a buyer, it's a little harder. You gotta go out there. You gotta find where the buyers are. You gotta educate them. You gotta partner with people that are talking to other people, and it all comes down to referral networks and being that educator. And that's how you find those buyers now. And buyers are scared. It's a crazy market.
Yeah, because so that's the thing. So the value of homes went up, or just real estate in general. Any real estate property, they went up.
Yeah.
But also what went up was the interest rates.
Yeah.
So it's once you actually see, I don't think people really sometimes get the visual part of it. Once you see how much a home was with 3%, compare to that same home now, I don't know exactly what it is. That was 6.8 or something like that a couple of days ago. But once you see that, you're talking about a crazy difference of payment. And it's usually people don't buy of I can afford a $3,000 home. They buy on I can afford that monthly payment, and that's the problem, I think.
Right. Well, when you've got rates going up as volatilely as they are now, where you could have a quarter of a point go up in a single day, that for some people means anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000 in buying power that disappeared in a single day.
Yeah.
So that's
a lot of
crazy.
money, yeah.
And that doesn't usually happen. That's not normal. It does fluctuate every day. That's normal. But that much, not usually. And we've had a couple times like that just this year. And so it's been a tough market. And so it is tougher to find the buyers. It's tougher to find qualified buyers. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad time to buy, because
it's waves.
right.
So,
I mean, we've had a complete shift in strategy. The beginning of the year, rates were still fairly low. They were still in the 3s to 4s, and then there were so many buyers still trying to get out there and still trying to buy that you were competing with sometimes 20 to 40 offers on a home, and so houses were going for $100,000 or more over the asking price. Well, it doesn't matter if the rate's low if you're paying that much over the price. Now, people backed off, and the rates are higher, which doesn't mean the payments are higher, but you're one of maybe 2 offers on that home. That home's sitting on the market for 45, 60 days now, and the person really needs to sell. And so they're more willing to negotiate. You can get seller concessions. You can make sure that, things from the inspections can get fixed.
Fix this, fix that. So it used to be that the seller had power.
Right.
Now it's the buyers are the ones that have power, because they're like, hey, you know what? This thing right here with the house or whatever, like, hey,
Right.
you probably go ahead and fix if you want me to buy it,
Right. Absolutely.
And I'm going to buy it $10,000 less than what you had, And before it's just like, yeah, that wiring's messed up or whatever, but here's $50,000 more than what you want. So it's
Right.
a crazy market.
It's not quite 100% a buyer's market, because we're still sitting on more demand than there are houses, but it's more balanced. There's a little bit more negotiating power on both sides now. It's not just one side doesn't have all the control anymore. It's much more balanced, and so it's hard to say where we're going to go with this. But we're already seeing prices come down a little bit, but they're still above where they were year over year. There's a few markets that are going to be hit a little harder than others.
Like which ones do you think?
So tech heavy industry markets are going to probably see the biggest declines. So like San Francisco, San Jose, Seattle, basically Northwest.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They're probably going to see the biggest declines. The other ones are the ones that were a little bit more historically overpriced, that saw booms during the pandemic. So like Austin, Boise, Phoenix, those are probably going to be the next biggest drops. But you're not. It's still not going to be completely drastic. We're not going to have a repeat of 2008, because it's a totally different situation. But you're still going to see the prices recede a bit, and those markets are probably going to get hit the most. Denver, on the other hand, it's kind of the oddball when it comes to every market. Even in 2008, we didn't see the drop that everybody else did, and it's just because we have a much more varied economy. If you look at most major cities, they tend to have 1 or 2 industries that kind of hold up the economy, whereas Denver, it's totally different. We have so many industries and so many different parts to our economy. We've got tourism, we've got oil and gas, we've got farming, we've got tech, we've got all of these different things. So we're not a one economy city, and so we don't get hit by recessions as hard. We don't end up with the unemployment that the rest of the country does, and then we weren't hit as hard for the housing crisis either.
So I'm a curious person, and I just like to ask a lot of questions. But I guess what is like your argument that, because there's a lot of people that are saying if you can see the numbers, it's heading towards worse than 2008. So it's like, what do you kind of
the difference is, in 2008,
because I guess it's 2 different markets, like Colorado to like the rest of the country,
Well, there's two major differences between now and 2008. In 2008, we had a ton of supply. We were, builders were going gangbusters. They were building houses like crazy, and so when the market crashed, they had an oversupply of homes. We don't have that, because since then, all the builders have pulled back and they're not building like they were then. And so we're still behind demand on housing inventory. And so that's one thing. The other thing is, obviously, the lending standards have changed quite a bit since then. There was a lot more subprime mortgages, people that were not qualified. The average credit score of a buyer today is much higher than it was in 2008. And so there's a lot less possibility of foreclosures. They're still going to happen. It still happens. But the biggest reason that people foreclose is not because the housing prices went out of control. It's because their income instability. So it's job losses. So the thing we're seeing in this recession, or this possible recession coming, that we're not
technically we are, aren't we?
Technically we are.
So depending on your standards for it. So looking at this recession as opposed to other recessions, we're not seeing job losses. Normally in a recession, you see job losses. And so that's what, pushes that recession forward. And that's what causes housing instability and all of those things, is because if you lose your job, how long can you pay your housing payment if you don't have a job?
Not that long.
Exactly.
People don't usually. So I guess the average person, I don't know the exact number, the percentage, but they don't even have $1,000 in their savings, and it's a high number. We're talking like 70%.
Oh yeah.
So it's like if you're without a job, you're not going to be able to sustain that. But kind of going back to like you're saying, like, because that's like in my head, like the contradiction of like credit score. Because I could be, just say a number. There could be somebody making $1 million. They have $1 million a year or whatever, but since they got so much stuff, they got properties here, this businesses here, their credit score could be lower of someone that has a $50,000 job. So that's they could have a higher credit score, but doesn't mean they're making more money technically.
Yeah, not necessarily.
Yeah, because credit score is just based on how much debt you have, I guess.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've worked with borrowers that have like no income. They have a lot of assets, but they've got a great credit score.
Yeah.
They still can't, qualify for a mortgage because they don't have any income.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
But, there's still ways to do that as well. But yeah, it's not, that's why mortgages aren't given out on a single thing. A credit score is only one of maybe like 20 factors that go into figuring out what your rate and payments are going to be, and whether you qualify.
Yeah, I'm not just saying just for like the mortgage industry itself, but just like people are like the new thing now, like you can bump your credit. You get all these ads. You can bump your credit score 3 points if you start doing this. Like, you shouldn't be worried about bumping up 3 points.
Is not going to matter.
You should be worried about trying to make more money or being do something better than trying to bump it up 3 points.
One thing I wanted to ask you was because technically, if you go by the technical definition, we are in a recession. It's like 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. We just might not be seeing the whole effects of it yet. And that's kind of one of the things I wanted to get is like, how severe do you think it's going to get? Or do you think it's just going to be like a mild kind of recession? Because I've heard kind of both, that it's going to be pretty bad. You should get prepared. Worst case scenario, you're prepared, and then you're fine. But then there's other people that are saying like, oh, you're fine, it's gonna be a mild recession, no worries. And then my only concern about that is like that they're telling people that, and then people aren't prepared for what's actually going to come, and then they end up not like they end up getting screwed over. So what's kind of like your take on that, and how severe it might get?
Well, I mean, nobody knows for sure. Obviously, we're all making predictions, but it's usually based on educated guesses. People like me, mortgage industry, we live and die by the news. We read news, especially financial news, almost daily, more than daily.
Yeah.
Because it affects our business. We have to know what's going on. But that doesn't mean that we have that much more insight on what's going to happen than anybody else. We're still guessing. We're just using what's out there to make that guess. And, I mean, I tend to agree with most of the experts that say it's going to be a mild recession just because the jobs. What really puts people in a recession is not being able to afford things, and losing your job obviously puts you in a position where you can't afford basic necessities. And then we end up having, a much more severe recession, and it doesn't look like we're on that track. In fact, I think we had a jobs report that's either out or coming out today, so I haven't had a chance to look at that yet. But that's going to give us even more indication. And honestly, that's just another thing that affects mortgage rates too. Those jobs reports are just as important as the Fed increasing rates.
Yeah, and I guess Colorado's always going to be just like that oddball. We're always going to be like a little better than like I guess the national average. Just because you said we have like a diverse economy.
Hey, we're always better.
We're usually in like the top 5 for the lowest unemployment in the country. We've been that way for a long time, just because there's so much demand to live here, and like I said, there's so many industries to work in. If you lost a job in one industry, you can find another job. There's something else to do.
That's kind of what I wanted to tell you. So one of the biggest things, I don't know if it's the number one thing, but it's one of the biggest things in Colorado is oil and gas. It's one of the biggest. I've worked in oil and gas for like, I want to say like 10 years. So I kind of know that's my background. So when COVID happened, I'm telling you, like, thousands of people got laid off. Like a company, just to kind of give you like perspective. So what I do, I was a welder. Mm-hmm. I was top of the food chain for all you guys that I work with. I was top of the food chain for sure. And they know.
If you know, you know.
So the company that we had like over 50 welders in 3 different states. It was 2 of us left, me and another guy. That's why they know I'm top of the food chain. so out of 50, and I was one of the youngest guys too. Right. So out of 50, there's 2 left right now. Because I still talk with a lot of them, they have like 6. It hasn't gotten back up to like how it was before. That way, like in the construction, like I have a lot of contacts in there still, and people are calling me like, hey, what's going on with this? There's not a lot of work, and that's one of the biggest things. There's a lot of work in construction, like homes, carpentry, stuff like that. But like in the oil and gas, it's pretty rough right now still. So that's like, there's a lot of stuff that drive Colorado, but like jobs, like that's not one of them right now. I don't think the oil and gas. I mean, it has its waves, just like everything too. But the oil and gas is really taking a hit because I'm telling you, I've been there for 10 years. In the beginning, it was rough, but like, I mean, it just changes. But it's right. Oil and gas it's not doing so hot, I guess you could say.
Are those just effects of like coming still back from COVID? Because COVID just kind of screwed everything all up and then made the market rise after COVID because then people just wanted to get out and move. And then, so are all these effects we're seeing, I guess, for both of you, is it still like effects just of coming out of it still 2 years later?
So that one, I don't think it was just like COVID itself. I think it was, I mean, not to get political and stuff, but it was when a lot of the laws changed that they didn't get permits. It's way harder to get permits to go to a certain area in cities or whatever. So that's what happened in the oil, oil and gas, because that's where I worked, and so that's why I know. But I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Eric?
Well, I have a little bit of insight on that as well. My dad's actually a geotechnical engineer. Okay. So obviously he's worked with, oil and gas companies and things like that too on, just doing site development and stuff like that. But, but yeah, definitely, I mean, COVID in general changed a lot of things, and yes, politics come into it too, especially when it comes to oil and gas. And yes, it's an ebb and flow in oil and gas in general. That one, it's probably one of the more volatile industries just because it's up and down.
Yeah, because they don't, it's hard to control that too, because it's all.
Well, it's not even just, the permitting on the wells, when refinery prices go up and when things like that go up, they have to cut costs somewhere, and because while American public wants cheap gas means they can't afford.
Exactly.
they can't afford the employees.
It's a chain reaction.
So it's kind of a give and take. So yes, everybody wants cheap gas, but the companies at that price are not making any money. Honestly, they don't even really technically make money to begin with. They have to get subsidies from the government to even be profitable in the first place. So that's a crazy industry, and so it's not indicative of every other industry. But yes, that like every other industry was affected by COVID and everything else too. Again, that's why the housing market's so crazy too. There was a huge demand all of a sudden when people wanted to start working from home. They realized, hey, I want a different home.
Or they wanted, instead of like an apartment complex, they want their own place so they can be isolated from other people.
Yeah, when you start working from home or when you start spending more time at home, you start realizing how important home is. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So the demand went way up. And then, because everything was shut down, supplies there was an issue with that too. So construction companies were having trouble even building because, supply costs went up. So, everything was affected in some way or another by the last couple of years. And so, that's why we're in this inflationary period too, is because demand and supply were not balanced. And that's really what pushes us into inflation, is when demand is too high and supply is too low. And so when you start doing that, the prices go up.
Yeah.
And that's where we're stuck.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about so I seen an article I was reading, and it was talking about like you people that been working from home, you better start getting your resume ready, because you're gonna have to start going in person, and a lot of people aren't gonna want to go back in person. Like, hey, you got to be here at 8 in the morning or 9. A lot of people aren't gonna like that. Do you think?
Well, Elon Musk for Tesla, he already like earlier in the year, he was already like, guys, come on, get your ass back to work.
No, but I just seen that post like yesterday. That article.
Right.
Okay.
And they were talking about like, hey, you guys better start making your resumes again, because, do you think people are gonna? Because I mean, a lot of them, you could work from home, like you got internet or whatever.
Right.
But a lot of them too. I don't know what your opinion is. That's what my question is. But it's like when you're in person, you get a way different feel. If you're like just doing calls or whatever, it's like right now we're sitting here having a conversation in person. It'd be a way different feel. If we're
we're on Zoom.
We're on Zoom. I mean, we can't give you the happy birthday shot. But it's like, you know what I mean? It's different. So what are your thoughts on that?
So it's kind of ironic, because when COVID started, I didn't get the opportunity to work from home. That was actually a time where I had to be out of the house, because when it started, I was still a district manager for Dollar Tree. So I was running 15 stores that I had to go to. And so when most people were having to stay home, I wasn't. I was actually out 6 days a week, 10 to 12 hours a day.
You were still okay. You're still okay.
So I was never home during COVID at the beginning.
And you're still okay.
And now that I've transitioned over to the mortgage thing, I work from home all the time.
Yeah.
I got transferred into a new office. I've only been there twice. Everything I do with them is on Zoom or on phone calls, and meeting with realtors and things like that. Sometimes it's actually just more convenient to meet on Zoom. You know how many appointments I can stack on top of each other when I do them on Zoom? I can do them right after each other. Well, if I'm meeting somebody in person, I might have to drive 15, 20 minutes in between each meeting. I'm so much more efficient doing it on Zoom. It's not as personal, no. And I definitely think that when I meet somebody in person, it's a much more, robust relationship, and we kind of,
Like if you have a big deal going on, like a big deal that you're about to close, are you going to call them on Zoom or give them a phone call, or are you going to show up in person?
It really depends.
Okay.
I mean, if I can be there in person, yeah. I mean, that's always preferable, because I'm a face-to-face kind of person. I actually hate talking on the phone, even though that's like 90% of my job. That's my least favorite thing to do, because I'd much rather meet people in person. That's actually why I get involved in so many different groups and events, is because I like
interaction.
And working from home, sometimes you kind of feel a little isolated and you want to be around people. Yeah. So I do, go to a lot of events. When people are like, "Oh, I go to like 2 or 3 networking events a week," I'm like, I go to like 7. Sometimes it's just to have the personal interaction.
Yeah.
So, do you think that's important though for I guess not just like for employees for like other businesses or something, but for people just to have that human interaction and not be just, even if they are working from home, just not be like isolated from everybody else, to still go out and do that?
I think it depends on the person. Introverted people would probably love just being at home and never have to be around somebody. Mm-hmm. They're probably very comfortable and they're probably very productive just being at home. I'm not that introverted. I actually do like being around people. So if I go a couple days without being around people, I actually lose motivation. So I try to get out there as much as I can. But again, whether the working from home or the working from office, it really just depends on the person. Some people are self-motivated and they can work from home and they're productive. some people need to be around an environment that's going to kind of push them to be productive. And so it really depends on the person. I don't think it's a general, everybody needs to go back to the office to get things done. I don't take Elon Musk's perspective. I think, some people are much more productive when they're home. For me, if I went to the office every day, I would be losing anywhere from an hour to 2 hours in traffic. That's 2 hours that I could be getting something done. Yes, I could technically be making phone calls or something in traffic, but honestly, who's going to be paying attention well enough on a call in their car or be able to take notes or whatever, doing those calls in your car?
It'll be like a half-ass call.
You can do it, but it's not going to be as effective as if I'm just sitting at my desk at home where I've got no distractions and I can take notes, and it's going to be a much more effective call. They're going to have 100% of my attention rather than me watching the guy that just cut in front of me.
Start cussing them out. I guess it just really depends on the industry that people are in.
Right.
Because for you can obviously do it at home. You don't have to go to the office all the time to do it. For us, we don't. Yeah, for meetings and stuff, we do have to be in person with other people. But when we're doing editing and stuff like that, you don't really need to be with everybody else.
It's hard for us to do a video over, just give you the best quality, best. But on what you guys were talking about, let me play devil's advocate a little bit. So not just on you personally, but you say in general person, hey, I'm gonna drive over an hour and then another hour back. So I'm 2 hours in traffic, like you said. Cool. My thing is people can do whatever they want at the time, but it's what are you doing with those extra 2 hours that you're at home? Are you being more productive, or are you watching a fucking movie just on Netflix? I guess each person can do what they want, but with their time. But that's the argument I give. They'll be like, oh no, this. Are you just telling that to? Are you just sabotaging yourself to do it, or to say that that's why you don't want to go? Or are you actually hey, no, I got my workout in, I did this, or I did a couple more calls, I did some research, I seen you're doing some videos, you got time for all that stuff, What's your guys' take on that? Do you think it's the auto-sabotage stuff, or do you think it's people no, I'm actually being way more productive? Honestly, what do you guys think?
Honestly, you're not productive in those 2 hours of driving anyway. So what does it matter what you did with those 2 hours? Technically, those were wasted hours if you went to the office anyway.
It depends how you spend those 2 hours driving. You can just spend them.
It could be work-life balance. You could be doing something that adds to your job satisfaction because you're able to get more things done personally too. So maybe you're more motivated to get your work done because, hey, if I get it done now, I have the rest of the day to get this done for me. So they've seen that a lot of people are actually more productive when they have that kind of freedom.
Some people.
Not everybody. There's some people that just won't be motivated no matter what.
Some people you gotta tell them to get that shovel or whatever and move it over there. If you don't tell them, they'll stand there and they'll look at the fucking shovel just laying there. So it's that. I mean, my personally thing. I mean, I think it's not the same as the human connection, in person. If I'm with Eric, I'd be like, hey, dude, you're just going to stay here watch. It's not like he does. You're just going to keep watching movies, dude, or are you going to go do a workout, or are you going to go do some editing? Sometimes you just need somebody to kind of
hold you accountable.
Push you, hold you accountable a little bit. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. I have some crazy ideas. Don't believe me in everything I say, but I mean, that's just what I think.
I think it just comes down to how people spend their time. Because you said all those 2 hours are wasted. If you're just listening to music, doing whatever, it probably will be wasted. But then there's also stuff you could do to make it more effective. You could listen to a podcast on the way over there.
You be listening to the Totem podcast as you're driving to work.
Exactly, listening to an audiobook or something to kind of just be educating yourself as you're going. So it kind of depends. I don't think it would be a complete waste of time because we do a lot of driving for our work, and then you could look at it as just a waste of time, or you could look at it as an opportunity to be isolated and learn something on your way to work, or on your way to a shoot, or on your way to do something.
That's true.
And I am an introverted person, so I like being at home. But then after a certain point, you just get weirded out, and you're I need to go out and let me at least go buy some bread or something.
You're
so I can get that human interaction.
What's his name? I'm guessing you guys seen Benchwarmers.
Yeah.
The guy, what's his name?
The sunscreen guy.
The sunscreen guy. He's sunscreen and he comes outside. He's like scared of the sun, so he comes outside with a blanket on, with the like sword, and like he's fighting the sun. So that's Eric for you next time you see that movie. But so it's like so this weekend I was at an event. It was a great event. Do you guys know Bradley? He's like a big sales and stuff, sales training, stuff like that. So I met him, and the biggest takeaway I got from him was like, if you want to make more money, you got to shake more hands. You just got to meet more people. Like you're saying, you're like out networking. Like I think that's huge. And a lot of I'm introverted. I mean, I feel introverted, but I understand that if I want to grow and I want to do more stuff, I have to be out there. So it's like, I mean, you just got to be out, I think. Like out and about, just meet more people, I think. What do you think, Eric?
Well, yeah, obviously I agree with being out and about because that's what I do.
Yeah.
And it's funny how many times I'm in one group and it overlaps with another group and I end up seeing kind of the same people.
I've seen them at a couple of them. I'll be like, hey, what's up?
I think I've seen you at least 3.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you end up seeing a lot of overlap and it's good for you because, those people that you meet, they're realizing they see you everywhere, and so they start to kind of associate you with whatever industry or whatever you do, and so seeing you all the time, that just kind of builds your credibility with them too. And that way it doesn't always have to be business. You don't always have to talk business and tell them who you are because you've already met them.
Yeah, exactly.
now you can be more personal and you can actually build a relationship with them too. And so that's why it's always good to be consistent in those groups too and try to show up all the time or as often as you can.
Yeah.
I miss them too. But, there's groups that I go to pretty regularly and, they know me pretty well too. And so, that's just how you build those relationships, is just being in front of them. You can call them all you want, but a call doesn't really build a relationship. You got to see them face to face.
Yeah.
I think that's the awesome thing about you, though, because you said you're a semi-introverted person, so you like your time alone and stuff. But then when you do need that human interaction, you maximize that time by going to these networking events to get out there, get yourself known more, shake more hands, like how he was saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I probably spend too much time just either working or networking. That's pretty much all I do. I don't have much of a social life outside of that. But, I actually kind of consider that part of my social life, when I'm going to especially like the investor groups. I love going to those groups because having a beer and talking about investments is actually downtime for me. Yes, sometimes it leads to possible clients and sales and things like that, but I'm not going into those expecting that. I'm just going to meet people and talk to people. And I like talking about investments. I could do it for hours anyway. And so ask my girlfriend. She gets bored as hell when I talk about that stuff. Anytime I bring up finances, she's always like, how many tacos is that? But yeah, I mean, that is my downtime. Kind of going back to like the working from home thing, having that discipline to work. For me, it's kind of the opposite, where sometimes I'll be sitting on my laptop kind of coming up with ideas and working on something, and I'll realize, hey, it's 10 p.m. I should wind down for the day, because I have the opposite problem where I get so focused into doing something or working on some idea to kind of promote myself or work for or find something for a client or design something for a realtor or something like that, that I'll lose time and I'll put too much time into it. And being at home, you don't have that, it's time to go home, key indicators.
The off switch.
You literally just spin the chair and you're out.
when you work from home, you don't really have that separation between personal and home, and so sometimes you actually work too much.
I think it just comes down to you're doing something you actually love doing.
Right.
Because if you didn't love doing it, you'd be like, all right, I've spent too much time on this or whatever, and it's time to go. Because I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, I'll be 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm still
be sending me messages at 2 in the morning. I'm like, what are you doing?
And that's
because we're the other way around. Like, I'm more of a morning person, I guess, if that's the cliche stuff to say. I'm a morning person.
Yeah.
But so I'm up early, like 5. I'm going, you know. And then so it's like, and then he's texting me at 2 in the morning. Like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah. But it's like when you love something, it doesn't feel like work. So you just keep working on it, and then. Like, I'm a big fan of football, so usually for Sundays, people are like, "Oh, just chill, just watch the games." No, I have the game on my little screen right here, but then on my computer, I'm like still working, still editing over here.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of documentaries. I love learning about all kinds of subjects. So there's a lot of times where sometimes I'm just sitting on my couch with my laptop in my lap, and I'm working, and I got a documentary in the background.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, if you don't mind me asking, like, besides like networking events and groups and stuff, like, what do you do kind of to learn stuff, to better yourself? Like, what's something that you do? Like, do you read?
Yeah, I do a ton of reading. Like I said, everybody in this industry is constantly reading financial news. I'm no different. I tend to read at least 3 to 5 financial articles every single day. I do read a lot of news alerts from my phone, things like that. And then, you know, downtime, I like learning in general. I always like learning about new things, new subjects. So documentaries are always a go-to. I actually, you know, I have a ton of streaming services, but one of the ones that I have is actually just documentaries. It's called Curiosity Stream.
Okay.
And it's just documentaries.
Documentaries about like what, if you don't mind?
Everything.
Because I like them. That's why
I watch all kinds of things. I'm particular about history, science, you know, especially like space. I'll watch a lot of them on space.
I have to write that down.
What's that on? Is that on Netflix?
It's its own streaming.
Oh, it's its own.
It's called Curiosity Stream. It's its own streaming service. It's a lot cheaper than the others. I think it's like $20 a year or something like that. But
it's way cheaper than the others. The other ones charge that a month now. But so I've been seeing. I follow like, I mean, obviously I follow your stuff, you know, especially on like LinkedIn. This is where I seen it. But I like that video that you had. Is like, what are 3 things you should invest in? Right. What do you think 3 people like? Do you want to tell me a little bit? Like, what are 3 things you think people should invest in? Like that video. What was
like that video?
Yeah.
That video is more general. General advice. You know, I mean, I'm never going to give you like a specific advice. I'm never going to say, hey, I want you should invest in this cryptocurrency or this stock or something like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, the 3 things I listed in that video. Obviously, real estate, because that's my business. Yeah. and that, you know, the reason I go to these investor meetups and things like that is because that's what I grew up with. My grandfather was a real estate investor. When I was living in Georgia, he owned a whole bunch of houses on this street, and they were all rental properties. And so I grew up understanding how, you know, real estate investing worked. And so right out of college, or right out of high school, college, I basically started investing in the stock market, and I bought my first house when I was 21.
That's good. That's pretty good.
But, you know, obviously real estate. I think the other thing I said was, you know, a side business or side hustle, because like you said, you never know what's going to happen with your main job. Plus, you know, if you can develop something that can end up being a passive income later on. Yeah. That's always helpful. You're not going to retire comfortably off of a single job in most cases. Some people will, but not most people. And so having that side hustle will help. And then the third thing I talked about was just kind of investing in yourself, learning a new skill, especially if it's a skill that you can monetize and turn into that side business. Yeah. Anything that can help you, especially financially. And so those are the 3 things I listed in that particular video. But yeah, I like making video content. When I first started making it for the mortgage industry, I was a little shy about actually talking because everybody hates the sound of their voice. So I did a couple, and then I just started doing more like the trendy stuff with music in the background and just words on the screen. Yeah. But more recently, after kind of reviewing some other social media classes and trainings and stuff like that, I realized I needed to make it more personal. I needed to make it more about me and be my own message. And so after a 3-month break of not doing any videos, I decided to start doing them again, and they've been doing pretty well.
So I mean, just a personal question, how has your experience been from like the first day you started doing videos to like the last one you just did? Like the first one, you were just like, oh shit, I don't know if I want to do this. You probably did 15 takes, I'm guessing, because I mean, we've all been through it. And then like now you're just like, you look at that one, and now you're just kind of like embarrassed, like, fuck, dude, this is me. Like, so how was your experience?
Well, yeah, anytime you try to put yourself on camera, on microphone, on anything like that, the first few times, you suck. There's no way around it.
You gotta suck.
Just accept it.
If anybody was good at it when they first started, everybody would be doing it. But nobody's good when they first start doing it. You have to stumble before you can walk and run. Yeah. And so, yeah, the first few times are terrible. But the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it. And so, yeah, obviously, the more recent ones, much more comfortable than the ones I made a year ago.
It took you probably like 10% of the time as the first one, probably, I'm guessing.
Well, I focus mostly on like short form videos because that's where most people's attention spans are these days. So yeah. I try to keep it under 30 seconds on most of them. And so, yeah, typically to record a 30-second video takes maybe like 15, 20 minutes, including editing.
Yeah. But like the first one, I'm pretty sure you're there for a couple hours.
The first one, the lighting was terrible. I looked washed out. The video looked terrible. The sound was terrible. Everything was terrible. Yeah. But it's all a learning lesson. Each time you do it, you learn something different. And even though I've been doing marketing for 20 years, basically I still learn every time I go to one of these classes. I'll still go to a social media class, even though I've built up many social media accounts. In fact, most companies always forget to take me off of like an admin on their page. So I'm still connected.
Still there?
I'm still connected as an admin on 27 pages on Facebook.
So if you see, so if you log into your Facebook page and it's been tinkered with, check your admin.
So is all this like video creation, all that stuff you're doing, is that just from your marketing background? Like that's one thing that's setting you apart from other mortgage lenders?
Well, I mean, lots of people do video, and I'm not the only one, obviously.
They don't know how to do great videos.
But I tend to focus more on the informational videos. Some lenders and other people in the real estate industry, they'll do the trendy, funny videos, which you get a lot of views, you get a lot of likes, but it doesn't really promote who you are or what you do. And so just getting views is great, but are you getting viewed by the people that need to see it? And so in my case, I tend to focus mostly on the informational stuff. I'll throw in some fun ones every now and then because that's why people are on social media. They're not always on there to learn. They're there to entertain themselves. So if you look at the history of my Facebook page, on my personal page, 90% of what I post is humor. I mean, that's really all I've done, and that's how I've maintained having large followings on my personal pages. It's just posting humor or personal pictures, friends, family, things like that. But mostly humor. So I do sprinkle some humor into it as well when I'm making the videos because not everybody wants to be taught to every day. Sometimes they just need a laugh.
Yeah.
No, that's for sure.
And well, too, like a lot of like other mortgage centers, they like market themselves like with a company, but you're like trying to build your personal brands. Like you're known for you, not because you work with someone else.
Right. Well, I mean, even in the mortgage industry, there's hundreds of mortgage companies. The most common, names in the mortgage industry are known by a few people, but as far as buyers go, buyers don't know most of those companies. The only ones they know are the ones that advertise, like, Rocket Mortgage and and those online lenders that are nameless, faceless. You work with half a dozen people that are probably in another state. Those are the only companies that buyers know. So me saying what company I work for really doesn't help sell me to a buyer. It might to a referral partner possibly if they have good experiences or bad experiences depending on the companies, but people change companies all the time too. And so I didn't want my reputation to be tied to a particular company. I wanted it to be tied to me. I wanted to stand out. And so that's kind of why I went the whole Eric the Red direction. My family's from northern Germany, so I am Scandinavian, and obviously you can't see because I'm wearing a hat right now, but I am a redhead.
And your name is Eric.
And my name is Eric. So it fit in so many different ways. And honestly, when I first did that Google search to see if there was an Eric the Red mortgage person in the country, I honestly thought it was going to be taken. But I searched several different ways, and I didn't find a single one in the country. So I was like, well, that's perfect.
That's perfect right there.
So that's the direction I went, and so far it's sticking. It's working pretty well.
No, that's good.
That's good. So, so you've done a lot of stuff in different industries and stuff. But the one when I was doing some research on you, I caught that you're an author. You published a book last year, and tell me a little bit about your book.
So, I mean, it's not something I'm going around trying to promote or make like a bunch of money on.
You should promote, because I had to dive deep to find this. Like, because I typed it in. He's this author of what's it called? Inspiration by Absence, and I was like, wait, is it him? He's never told me about this. And I'm not even kidding. I was there for a long time trying to find out if this was you or not. But yeah, so tell me a little bit about it.
As a hobby, part of marketing a lot of times is writing copy for advertisements and things like that. And so, trying to keep creative juices flowing, you do end up by default kind of becoming a writer. And at one point I started dabbling in poetry. And so over a 10-year period, I ended up with a collection of over 200 poems.
Okay.
Just random subjects. And so I decided that I should just put it all together in a collection and just post it and put it out there. Just something to exist long after I'm gone. Just for the hell of it. Normally when you see a poetry collection, it has some kind of theme or some kind of way that they all tie together. Unfortunately, these don't. It's all over the place because it was all just random inspiration, which is where the title came from. But, so it was just, sometimes I would just like wake up and have an idea and I would just like write it out. And I found that the more I did that, the more creative I was with copy and other things and marketing. And so I just kept kind of nurturing it and doing it. And so I ended up with this huge collection and put it all together,
Put it all
just
out there.
published it. I did self-publishing, and so it's not like anything professional. It's in a little paperback.
Yeah.
I didn't even put any design work into the cover. It's just basically like two-tone. It's like, I thought about it at one point, like trying to get it illustrated and stuff like that, but I figured that would just be too much work. So
We'll roll with it. Where can people find that book?
actually, if you look on it online, you'll find it. It's called Inspiration in Absence.
Where's it? You can get
It's
it. You're saying
it's pretty much
everywhere,
anywhere.
huh?
It's pretty much anywhere. Amazon, any online bookseller.
Okay.
But it was self-published through lulu.com, Lulu.
Okay.
So,
Cool.
but
Cool.
like I said, it's not really something I'm planning on like paying my bills with. It was just something I did.
Yeah.
just like a passion project.
It was just, I mean, I wouldn't even necessarily call it a passion project because not like my passion is writing. It's just that it was just kind of a byproduct of other work. So.
No, that's good.
So where could people find you online?
So easiest way to find me online is just if you look up Eric the Red and Mortgage together in a Google search, you'll find me. The exact hashtag is Eric the Red MLO, but I'm on pretty much everything. I think the only like social media I don't really use is Snapchat.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But
Pretty
yeah,
much
I'm
on everything.
pretty much on everything. Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. You can pretty much find me anywhere.
Okay.
And I post pretty regularly on all of the sites. When I do a video, I tend to post it pretty much on everything.
Yeah. So last question we got for you. What's something you want to be remembered by?
In general?
In general.
Or in the industry?
general in life, and you like as a professional in life, whatever.
Well, I mean, one of the reasons why I've, been successful in networking in general is just helping connect people to other people. That's kind of been my ultimate role, and it's been more important to me than me networking with a single person is me helping other people network with each other. And that's kind of what built me in the music industry. That's what's helped me in pretty much every other industry I've worked in, just making that connection and just being that connector. That's probably what I'm known for most. I like it.
Great. No, that's great.
Awesome.
So, guys, I mean, you guys heard it all. He's well educated in a lot of different industries, from the marketing to the mortgage lending to even an author. So make sure you actually check it out. He's well known in like diverse stuff. So make sure to check his stuff out. We'll put all the links to all your stuff down below so people can find you.
Yeah, and thanks again for coming out here, spending some time with us on your birthday. Your
birthday.
We really appreciate that.
Hey, this was fun.
Yeah.
No, appreciate your time. So.
You guys, if you stuck around this long, I know you guys are already subscribed to the channel. But please, if you liked it, give it a thumbs up and just share with one other person. How we were saying earlier, that's the only fee we have for the show. But guys, thank you for tuning in. And an act of rebellion is to question.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
See you on the next one.
Underrated, we the underdogs, underestimated.